Hi, I'm Whack.
Hey, and I'm Pat, and thanks for joining us for another episode of the Weekly Orbit ending April 26th, 2024. Today's our 51st episode. Last week, our 50th, and I want to apologize. Last week, I realized I didn't have my mic on, and I was talking through my earbuds. Whack, you would think after doing this 50 or 49 times, I would have this figured out by now.
Hey, I've had episodes that have turned out like horribly, and I've had to go back and re-record the whole thing. And a few
Yeah.
times I've just been like, guys, I'm sorry, I recorded it. It was garbage, and I'm not doing it again today. You'll
Right.
have to wait until
And it's even
tomorrow.
harder when you got,
So these
like
things
you and
happen. I
I,
totally get it.
we do a recording, and then, a couple hours later, I start to do the edits, and I'm like, oh, this happened or that happened, right? But, that's part of broadcasting and creating content. It's the Bankless guys, all the shows they do and all the guests. I just imagine all the technical difficulties they must have and run across, and you just figure it out and power through it, right?
Yep, that's what you got to do.
Okay. Well, let's take a look at this week's news. We're going to start out, we have the poll app. We'll get to that later. We got the big raffle coming this week. Let's go over prices. So, been a kind of volatile day or two. Right now, Ethereum's at 3,134. It is, if we look at the weekly chart, last week we're at 3,033. So we're actually up in US dollar terms, but you can see we had we were up to maybe, around 30, close to 3,300. Now we're back down to 31. So a little bit of a sell-off there. And then if we look at RPL, right now we're at $21.87. It also joined in the little sell-off over the last 24 hours or so. In terms of ETH ratio, we're actually up a little bit. Last week we started at 0.0066, and we are currently at 0.0069, so up a tad. Any thoughts or comments about this week's markets?
Yeah, so RPL here had recovered really strongly, and like I was super happy about the price action for RPL over the last week, except in this last like 36 hours where the whole market kind of took a step back, and RPL also did that. Sadly, the bounce from the bottom was looking quite healthy. In terms of like US dollars, we were up nearly 33% at one point, like from $18 to $24, which was really good. Against ETH, we were up quite strongly from 0.0064 all the way up to 0.0075, which is also a 20% increase against ETH, which was looking really good. It's just these last like 36 hours have really kind of like put the brakes on that recovery. I think in all honesty, for the broader crypto market, we're going to be seeing this for the next few months potentially. Like that's what seems to be like the consensus, that the market is just going to be choppy for a while. We've had this great move up for Bitcoin and the crypto market as a whole, and now we just got to like kind of consolidate and just chill at these levels for a while before we potentially move back upwards. I don't want that. I want to keep moving upwards, of course, but you take what you can, and I just want RPL to kind of like regain some of that ground, and I'm hoping that it'll do that. With Houston a month away now, so hopefully there'll be some good stuff with that.
Right. Yeah, we'll talk about there's some Houston news that we'll touch on later in the show. We got. Let's take a look at the deposit pool. We're up a little bit from last week. Right now, the balance is around 11,700. That leaves us around 6,300 ETH space. I think last week the balance was around 8,000 or 9,000, if I recall. So it's filled up a little bit. So I think that's a healthy sign as well.
It can and it can't be, because if people exit their validators, then some of that ETH gets thrown into the deposit pool depending on what the situation is like. So there's different things afoot. Like the main thing to look at, like our ETH supply overall is around 520,000, which is down from the peak of like 560,000, which is a bit of a shame. Validator count is down as well from the peak of around 26,500, I think, something like that, down to about 24,000, 25,000, something like that. So those numbers, like, thankfully they're not in free fall like we saw ezETH's price in free fall this week, but we're doing okay, but we just need to hopefully start a nice positive run again, and I think that'll be good for everyone. Everything's
Yeah. So on the Renzo, we don't have it as a news item, but it was the first LRT to have some issues. It had what we call a depeg, kind of a short-lived one, but pretty significant.
violent.
And
Yeah.
it kind of brought focus about, the riskiness that comes with these LRTs in terms of Renzo. You're kind of locked in, which creates problems if all of a sudden everyone starts selling. And it kind of refocused people like, hey, maybe LSTs aren't so bad. They got Lindy, we got Rockapool, our ETH. It's tried and true and relatively safe compared to these other new hot things. So do you think that this could be the start of maybe a new narrative, or perhaps people realizing maybe we've gone a little over our skis a little bit here with all the farming and craziness that comes with these LRTs? Do you think that this is the beginning of maybe a turning a corner a little bit, or do you think this is going to be, no, just keep pouring my ETH into EtherFi and Renzo and all the others? What do you think?
Yeah, so I'm kind of pessimistic about it still. I think it's just like a chink in the armor right now. Like this I don't think they've done lasting damage. It should do lasting damage. Like easy ETH, Renzo's ETH, STIB, LRT, depegged 50% on the wick. So it went
That's
from
a lot.
3,200 to 1,600. And it's not just that. What they were doing was they incentivized liquidity using folding. And what happened is people with thousands of ETH worth of those positions, because they were trying to maximize their points, right, got liquidated.
Right.
So I saw a tweet today from someone saying they had 4,000 ETH liquidated on their easy ETH position. Yeah. So
That's crazy.
The thing is as well, though, is if you get liquidated because of the way Renzo set up their airdrop, they're not even going to be eligible for the airdrop unless they put more ETH in. It's horrible. I'm laughing.
While you're down.
It's truly horrible. Like, and then people starting to realize that this is going to happen again because Renzo don't have withdrawals set up on their platform yet. So they've announced their airdrop saying it's going to happen within a month. So if they don't have withdrawals set up, all those people are going to go back to selling their easy ETH because they've got the airdrop, right? They don't need it anymore. So those outflows potentially could cause another cascading depeg to happen. It's just horrible. But I think people will be like, oh, Renzo, they're out there on the risk curve, but EtherFi and Swell and Puffer, they're all fine. And it won't be that people learn the lesson until they get burned themselves, sadly. Until that happens, it'll always be like, oh, it's those guys with the risk takers, but what I'm doing is fine. But it doesn't work like that. Like the bad things are going to happen with these guys, sadly.
Right. And technically they don't even have a product yet, right? Until EigenLayer goes live and starts doing, live AVSs and all that stuff. Yeah. This is just all pure speculation. And whereas traditional LSTs like Lido and Rockapool, like we actually have a product, and it's been around for a while. And so go ahead.
I was going to say that this LRT EigenLayer merry-go-round is going to keep going until every last airdrop is sucked out of the system, and only at that point will the people then leave, because they will leave, right? You're not going to stick around in the LRT, because you got in expecting 60, 70, 80% returns. You're not going to stick around when it's 2 or 3% returns. At that point, you're going to go off and do something else. So, there's the protocol airdrop that will happen, AVS airdrops that are already happening. EigenLayer will do an airdrop, and then they're going to try to milk it by doing a season 2, season 3, as much as they can to try to keep that liquidity sticky. And once TVL sticky, and once people realize that that's the end of the gravy train, they're not going to stay on the train any longer. They're all going to leave. Right. So I think we've still got a few months of this to play out.
Will be positioned and ready to go once that narrative dies off, because it almost feels like, in a way, musical chairs. Mm-hmm. When the music stops playing, what's going to happen to you? So everyone, is there going to be a rush to the door to get out before everyone else decides to, before price tanks or whatever?
Yeah.
So we'll keep an eye on that, but we'll see. This week we finally had some movement on the Starknet As we covered here a couple months ago, the season 1 of Starknet Airdrop came by. There seemed to be a problem with their list. They said we're going to drop the solo stakers. Rocket Pool was pretty much completely left off due to some really great work by Val and other community members, and then Langers and the team. They put together our list. They submitted it to the Starknet Foundation. And now, as of just a couple days ago, the Stark token is live for Rocket Poolers. And here's the Twitter link for it. If we go to my next screen, this is the provisions page. By the way, make sure, be double, triple sure that you're actually on the correct page for Starknet, because there's so much scam out there. But this is the correct one. And won't go through it, but you'll have to connect. You need a Starknet wallet, which is either Argent or Bravos, I think is the other one, right? Extension.
Yeah.
And then you're going to walk through this, but the details, I think originally WAC, it was 1,800 Stark tokens per validator. It turns out that was reduced a little bit. It was 777 per validator. Mm-hmm. Still a nice amount, not as much as people thought. It is free money. I'm not going to complain, but ultimately it was the Starknet team that decided who and what and how much would be offered. But anyways, I feel good. I was like, oh wow, great. This was a nice payout. I will admit I did sell my Stark swapped it into ETH and brought it back over to Ethereum from Stark. How about you? What are your thoughts? I think I saw you actually swapped your tokens into ETH and then into RPL, which is pretty awesome. So
yeah.
What do you think, man? Starknet.
So Starknet really fucked us, pardon my language. What happened was if we were in the first airdrop like we should have been, the price of a Stark token at the time was around $3.50. It was even up to $4 on launch day. Yeah. And we were eligible for around 1,800 Stark tokens per validator. So that was basically $6,000 to $8,000. Well, not 8,000, maybe $6,000 to $7,000 per validator, which was looking very, very nice. Right, that was a very nice payday. Yesterday, people were getting around $1,000 per validator. So it's not as nice. And like you said, it's free money, right? So we can't complain too much. But I think the Stark guys really did us dirty, because they put us into the pooled staking category instead of, I think the better category would have been the home staker category. And because of that, we got less than we should have. And that's a shame, but that's just the way it works out, I guess. And there's not that much we can do about it. But hey, it's free money. And like you said, I got mine, swapped. I went through the steps and got it to Arbitrum, where I swapped my Stark tokens eventually for just over 100 RPL. So yeah, it was pretty cool. Yeah. Very
nice. You did a nice job here explaining the steps to claiming. And as you see, there's multiple ones. I got to admit, I'm not a big fan of Starknet. I don't know. I just don't care for it. And that's part of the reason I just swapped it all out 100% back into ETH and moved it over. It sounds like they're going to have a season 2 airdrop. So if, again, not financial advice, but I know some folks took some of their Stark and they delegated it and kept it there, hoping that, because Optimism had done something similar where they had their initial airdrop and then their second drop came to those who had delegated. So perhaps Starknet's going to do the same. No guarantee, but I know some folks are kind of sticking around. Perhaps there's more to come. Don't know. We'll have to see. But you did a nice job here listing the steps you have to. And I especially like the last one, number 8. Sell your rewards for RPL. Right.
Yeah, I did it myself. So I just told you all my steps basically. So I actually missed out
you
a
used
couple
the
of
Bravos
steps
wallet, right?
I used the Bravos. Yeah, I used the Bravos.
I used
wallet.
the Argent.
They both work, but there are a couple of things that, because I did this right away, pretty much when the thing went live, we were still kind of figuring out what to do after step 7. So after step 7, tokens arrive in your wallet. So what do you do with the Stark tokens? Well, then there were avenues of like, how to swap them into ETH or USDC. So there was the website called Avnu, avnu.fi, which you could use to swap, which is like an exchange. You can use this exchange feature built into Bravos wallet, but I think they take a bigger cut. So it depends if you want to do that or not. And then there were a few different bridges that you could use. I used Layer Swap, which worked really well. Then there was also Orbiter, which I couldn't get to work. I tried that first. And also the Starknet bridge, but that takes 8 hours, but then you get your whole amount. So there were some different options of what you would want to do, what you could do. Layer Swap let me set directly to Arbitrum, which was really nice, and I swapped it for RPL there on Uniswap. So there was some really great help from community members that kind of helping each other do this. People were helping each other out by like sending Stark back and forth. They were helping each other out by just being really patient, explaining the steps, sharing links. It was really great. Like this is like the best of the Rocket Pool community, where loads of people come together and just kind of like help each other, like all succeed. It's really awesome to see.
Right. So my journey on it was I used the Argent wallet. I had years ago I had downloaded the one on my phone, so I was kind of familiar with Argent. That's why I went with the Argent extension using Chrome. I was looking up like Jedi Swap is an AMM on Starknet, and so I looked at the swap, what I would get if I swapped my Stark for ETH, and then I compared it to the in wallet swap feature that Argent had, and actually I had a better return on the Argent swap. So I'm like, oh, okay, I'll just do it through the Argent, swap feature.
Yeah.
It was easy, and then I end up using Orbiter to move it. I've used Orbiter maybe 10 times in the past, trying to farm an airdrop for that potentially.
Yeah, good
just,
luck.
FYI.
Yeah.
So I keep track of the nonces I've done on all these. So yeah, I've done about 10 times on Orbiter, so I was pretty familiar with it, and it was cheap, and I had my stuff within a couple minutes. So I know layers. I had looked into the layer swap because folks were talking about that, but there was a limit, 1 ETH max at a time.
Are you showing your whaliness now, Pat?
Was that?
I said, are you showing your whaliness now? Like
whaliness? No. Well, I was just reading the screen. I said, "Oh, look at that! It's only one." You'd have to do if you had more than 1 ETH. You'd have to have 2 transactions. So Orbiter didn't have that limit, so that was nice. But it was a process. I spent yesterday morning. I'm sure like a lot of rocket poolers just how do we do this? How do you figure this out? A lot of steps, but in the end, worth it. I'm happy. Thanks Starknet for finally, help. I mean, you can't. It's hard to bash some protocol giving out tokens when they gave out tokens, right? Because they have done it better. I think so for sure. But all in all, I'm happy. It's free money.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
And by the way, you have to make sure you go to Sweden, and the Netherlands, or Japan, or Romania, maybe Canada, because if you're an American, you're not going to be able to claim this. So you may have to travel.
You're protected by Gary Gensler,
That's right.
Yeah. Thanks, Gary. I was in Sweden myself.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Another airdrop. It's airdrop season. OMNI. So OMNI. Last week we talked about OMNI, and they were using the rated network list for solo stakers, which excluded a lot of rocket poolers, including myself. But now they did an announcement in their Discord, and they talked about, hey, if you were not on the original list, there's a Google form you can fill out, and you have to sign a transaction from your wallet proving your withdrawal address is you, and you submit it to the team, and they will look it over. So they say here, Beacon Chain, part of the OMNI Genesis airdrop, Beacon Chain solo stakers from the Rated Network solo staker list are eligible to claim 60 OMNI. By default, all deposit addresses on this list were whitelisted. After considering feedback, OMNI Foundation has developed a process for eligible users to switch their whitelisted address from their deposit address to their withdrawal address. So this may open up. I haven't done this yet, but I'm hoping that this is going to open me up to getting the token airdrop. Yep. If you're wondering here's the Google form. I'll put this in the show notes. in case you want to play around with it. So again, by the time I end up getting this, the price, I think originally what OMNI was like $50 or something a token. Now
Right
it's
in the first few seconds, it was like $40 or $50, but it's like right down into the low 20s now. So 60 tokens is worth just over $1,000. When I got claim of it, it was like nearly $2,000, but I'm still holding mine. So should have sold.
What's the incentive to hold this one? Is there a sense that OMNI is going to reward those who hold it, or what? What do you think?
No, it's just like a projection of what you think might happen to the price. So if you look at recent airdrops, it seems like most of them have gone up in price for the first, like within the first couple of weeks of launch, and then they've kind of like traced down after that. So it was just like a calculated risk, basically thinking that OMNI might get a pump or two, like in the coming days. With Starknet, the reason why I sold it right away was because the token's been launched for over a month now, right? Like it's been trading for a while. So I feel like any pump that I was going to have has already happened, and it didn't get any pump. So those were the two different mindsets. I think going forwards though, I'm just going to dump them like pretty much on day one, and like unless I really believe in the project. The good thinking is like, would you buy this with cash money? And so far I haven't had an airdrop where I thought I'm going to buy this with cash money, if that makes sense. So that's what it is.
A couple of the drops I've seen in the past, like Dimension was one. There's another one called Saga. Those are on Cosmos, and they say in their blog posts that because the way it's set up, like if there's all these other teams that are working within like the Cosmos ecosystem that look, hey, because you staked your Dimension tokens, we're going to reward those Dimension stakers when we do our airdrop. So it's almost like they have like a little mini ecosystem working within them. And so like in cases like that, I'll hold a little bit just for that potential down the road, and then the rest of it I'll sell it.
I think that's what happened with Celestia, right? And that's kind of made people think what's going to happen, because Celestia launched at like $2 or $2.50, and it peaked at $21, I think, or even maybe higher than that. They did a 10x basically, and the reason why they did that was like, hey, this is going to make you eligible for future airdrops. So people were buying Celestia just to become eligible for other airdrops that were happening. Yeah, and that then becomes like a strong, driver of price. But I think people realize that the airdrops that were going to come weren't actually going to be all that valuable. So Celestia's price is retraced quite a lot from its highs. And that's the game that you need to play, right? You need to figure out like, at what point am I comfortable selling this, and then just never checking the price ever again, because checking the price again is not a healthy thing to do.
You're right. I'm still upset that I didn't go to Canada to claim my
Celestia.
Celestia. At the time, I was playing around with it. I'm like, I can get this to work, and I just kind of gave it up. And then, a month later, it's sitting at $20. It's like, oh my gosh.
Because you would have had like 300 tokens, so that would have been like $6,000 basically, like, which is a nice amount of money. Big. So
and that's worth going to Canada for. Okay, on to our next news item. This is rocket pool related. So Langers, he announced that the testnet launch of Houston is imminent. Today, we raised the ODAO proposal to upgrade the whole ski testnet to Houston. It's a fantastic opportunity for the community to help the protocol. If you have a testnet node and you want to help out, here's your chance. And so this is the first step in getting Houston launched. I think the launch date is May. Is it 28th?
26th.
26th. Okay, so getting it on the testnet for everyone to play around with is the first step. I think I remember that the audits were going to be released this week as well. Did that happen?
Not yet. No. So the audits will be released, and we're also going to be switching the Immunify bounty from the old Atlas code to the new Houston code. So that will change as well, and we'll have a month basically on testnet, and then we'll be ready to go. So it was coming any day now. It was the news of this launch was imminent, and the reason why it was delayed was because the Houston upgrade was delayed was because they weren't quite ready to get Houston onto the testnet like a few weeks ago. So they just gave themselves that extra 3 weeks to make sure that everything was lined up and set. So we got a new smart node version 1.13.0, which is ready for Houston on Haleshki, and then we're probably going to get Smart Node 2, 2.0 coming soon, which is the one that Joe's just finishing up. And that's probably going to go to testnet first as well. So we might get that next week, potentially, or next couple of weeks. Before then, we'll get it ready for mainnet for the end of May. So it's really exciting.
Yeah, especially for the real gurus out there in the community who they're chomping at the bit. They, to test it out on the testnet and poke around and try to break it, or at least play around with it, see how it works. But then, let me stress test this thing and see if we can find, because you might get yourself a bounty, right? If you find a little bug, right?
Yeah, there's potentially thousands of dollars available for that, so it's really cool.
Yeah, it is cool. Okay, on to our next item. Speaking of Langers, he was on the Beefy podcast, their first inaugural podcast. I watched several minutes of this. I didn't get the whole thing yet, but it's pretty good. They put together a nice show. I know that we were talking about this yesterday. Anthony Sassano is going to be taking a break from doing his Daily Gwei podcast for a couple of weeks at least. It sounds like it might go longer. He sounds like he's really burnt out and needs some time. And I know you said you're going to start offering more Ethereum related news in the interim to kind of help fill the gap. There's a lot of crossover between Rocket Fuel viewers and Daily Gwei. So if you're looking to watch another podcast, kind of fill in the gap without the Daily Gwei, check out the Beefy podcast. It's pretty good with Langers and recommended. And there's, if you're sometimes it's just easier to just watch something instead of reading what's coming next. Well, here, just watch a few minutes of Langers. He'll tell you, what's on the coming up. Okay, finally, the POAP, 50th POAP or 50th episode of the Weekly Orbit last week. We sold these off. They were about 0.002 ETH, which is around $5. The proceeds went into a pool that WAC you've been keeping, keeping track of.
I think
we've got.
It's about $150 of ETH, just a little bit less than that. So yeah.
Okay, so the idea is the ETH is going to be swapped into RPL, and we're going to have a winner of the raffle. So it's about $150 worth of RPL, which is 4, 5, 6, 7.
Yeah, something.
7.5 RPL. Not bad.
Something like that. Maybe a little bit less. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So here is we've got the mints here. Let me just refresh this in case we. There we go. Okay. So as you see, we've got everybody. These are, if you had an ENS name, it appears here. We got some regular wallets as well. And then what we did was we downloaded the CSV file and we put it into random.org.
Yep.
And we pasted it in there. The formatting's not the best, but you may see your ENS name in here. And Wack, you've done this on your show a few times, and it works really well.
Yeah.
All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to run this right now.
So you just
live.
Randomize, and then the top list, the name at the top of the list will get all the RPL basically that is across those different wallets. I'll consolidate them soon, and I'll send that out soon as well.
Right. Should we have a drum roll? Do you want to do a drum roll?
Yep.
So we hit the randomize, and here we go. So the IPEKTKOV.eth.
Yeah,
is the
I don't know how to pronounce
Congratulations.
That person also won on Mentor's raffle today, so they're having a really lucky
Oh my
week.
gosh.
Yeah.
And they should go play the lottery.
Yeah, that's amazing. Congratulations.
Wow.
Shifrin came second. Sorry, Shif. No prize for you. Yeah, but it's going to IP. I don't know how to say that because it's too small on my screen. Yeah, IP Petkov.
I Petkov.
Wonderful. Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations.
You'll be getting some RPL.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah,
and we'll post that in Discord. But this was great. Thanks for all those who participated and got that POAP. Thanks for Shifrin too. He put together that POAP in record time. Like I gave him like a day or less than a day, and he pumped it out. So thank you, Shif, for doing that. And Wax, thank you for taking care of all the POAP. The money and the funds and all that stuff, because you've done this several times, so you took the reign on that. So we'll post that in Discord. And then do you have a win this week?
Yeah, I was just thinking that I like to talk about airdrops being wins normally. So the Starknet airdrop was a nice little win, but my actually big win this week was talking to Anthony Sassano, and
Oh yeah.
basically I was talking to him about like his break and like just wishing him well and a nice time that he needs. And it's a real thing, right? Like when you're involved in crypto like 24/7, like he is, like I am, like other people are, it can be a lot. It can be a lot, and he just needed that time. So I was wishing him well, and then it came up in that conversation that I could maybe pick up some of the fill in the gap, right, of him not being around. I can you know get some more Ethereum news and Rocket Fuel to kind of like help his audience, because it's fine like listening to Bankless or these other podcasts where they're interviewing people, but it's not like news, it's not like day-to-day happenings. And he's given lots of shout outs to Rocket Fuel on his show before, and like he's covered things that I've said on Rocket Fuel before, sorry, on Daily Gway before. So I guess he kind of like trusts me that I will do a good job of it, and I was really honored by that. So that's a really huge win for me, the fact that he gave me a shout out on his show. It was his lead story on Wednesday's episode, and telling people to like check out Rocket Fuel. So that was definitely a big win for me. Like it was a really nice moment.
Yeah, awesome. And I think he's mentioned me as well in Weekly Orbit, which you're a part of course.
Yeah.
To kind of fill in. So I've gotten a feeling over the last couple months that he's missing he misses episodes like one or twice a week, and you just feel like you need to take a break. And I'm really happy that he is. So it's taxing, I imagine. Yeah, you got to break away from this stuff once in a while and touch grass and be with friends, family, relationships, all the stuff outside of this that matter. So like, I'm happy for him.
With Anthony, right? Like, okay, to do what he and I do, like to have a daily news show, it's not just a matter of like getting your links together and making an episode and getting it out. It's literally like living, breathing crypto 24 hours a day, because you have to know everything that's going on. And for him, even more so than for me, like there's so much that goes into it. Like once I was sitting down in trading, I was like talking and trading about like just how much crypto media content I consume, just so I can keep on top of everything I need to keep on top of. And I think it was like 14 hours a week of crypto podcasts that I listen to, which is like 3 hours a day, pretty much, like during the work week. And that's just the top tip of the iceberg, right? It's like hours in trading, hours in Twitter, Farcaster on top of that, ETH finance, like every day, I'm consuming all this stuff. And for him, he's then talking to these protocols like angel investing and all this other stuff that he does on top that I don't do. I can't imagine just how much of his life it takes up. So like,
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
He and you're just focusing really mostly on Rocket Pool. I mean Ethereum stuff too, but he's doing the entire ecosystem, and that's just so much. So I hope he comes back strong, and mental health is really important. My win for the week was, I was going to say the token, the airdrops. Finally, I know we've been kind of left out. For others, they've gotten tokens a couple months ago, whether with Starknet. I'm hopeful OMNI I'll get mine. I'm also hoping that I saw like Superfizz working on that the stakers union and coming up with the better lists. So this will make it easier for protocols to not just like talk about giving solo stakers and then taking some flawed list and throwing it out there, but actually like using a better list that includes more people. And so I'm hoping that there's some growing pains there, but we'll be handsomely rewarded down the road. So that's my win for the week is airdrops, and more to come.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks for listening and being part of the Rocket Pool community. We will see you next week. We'll be into May next week. So April will be over, and hopefully we'll have a really strong May with markets coming back. So until then, we'll see you. See you, Whack.
See you, Pat.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.